Dividend investing sounds safe, but what if I told you on its own it's a bit bland and it might actually be holding you back? Because the truth is here, dividend investing isn't the one picture. It's just a part of the picture. And if you are investing for the long term and wealth, you need to pay attention to it, but you also need to pay attention to other things too. This is why you need to understand this properly and why certain funds, even if they pay higher yield, could be perfect. And if you like dividends, if you like investing, slap the like button. And if you want more of this content, please do subscribe. Now let's set this up in a simple way. On the screen, I'll zoom in a little bit. Ben Graham is a fantastic investor, old school though. And he wrote in 1934, the primary purpose of a business is to pay dividends to its owners. A successful company is one that pays dividends regularly and presumably increase the rate as time goes on. And I think as well, that should be the mark of a strong company. But you'll find out throughout this video that the modern view of this, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. And we will discuss it. We will talk about it. But I still think this 70-year pretty much debate is still not settled. I still think, for me, if a company is strong, it should be rewarding customers or investors, if that makes sense. But you also have the other side of it where it's, oh, you should be reinvesting those profit into research, development, making things better. It's a dangerous game. And we see a lot of companies blow up by doing it wrong. But sometimes it's okay to reward as well. Because with the world of the S&P 500, and I get it, it's a bit wet in certain points, but over the last couple of years, the dividends have grew massively within that. Like certain tech stocks now offer dividends, which is great. They're small, but they do grow, and they will hopefully become great compounding machines. And we will talk about yield on cost in a bit, so don't go anywhere. But long story short, you can see there's a massive, massive jump. And the thing is here, this element here, it's almost doubled within a 2-year period from this point, which is crazy when you think about it. So 4/5 were dividend stocks. That seems to be growing and growing and growing. Even recently, other stocks that you may have heard of now do dividends, which is mental. But you may have already heard of this, the understanding the irrelevance theory of dividends. Now, there's two ways of looking at this. Some ways you agree because they are quite obvious, and there's ones where you disagree that they don't fall into this trap. And let me kind of explain, because it is quite baffling. I'm not going to go too deep into this because it is quite an old paper. There's a lot of noggin words, but you get the idea. Long story short, this argues that the dividends don't impact the stock price. And with some stocks, you see that quite clearly. Also, you have other situations where you may well find that, diverting funds to, profits from the company into, say, the pockets of other people. I get that. But some will maybe argue, well, you should put more into, say, as I say before, research and development. The thing that really is the thing that you need to look out for is dividend traps, high yield. Companies that take on debt to pay off dividends to make it look better. Those should be within your screening. So yes, it's old, like the Benjamin Graham stuff, but it's all about research. If you find genuinely a top quality company, whether it's growth, technology, AI, and it is paying a dividend, don't dismiss it, but look into how strong is that company. What is the dividend yield? Is it growing, for example? What about an older school stock that may be something that you may know quite well of, say Costco? What is their business model? Are they doing well? And is it worth investing? For example, random example, I know, but it's all about screening the asset. So basically, yes, you're moving money from one pocket to another. I get it in certain ways where it's either going into the company stock, research, or going into the company shareholders. There's two, but don't go too deep with it because you'll start blowing yourself up. But the reality is here, you need to do both. Both sides are right. You've got one side where it is irrelevant, and you got other sides saying, well, a strong company should reward, realistically. Because on their own, I think dividends can be quite weak. Yes, you have less reinvestment, you have less growth in that sense. Often slower sectors, older school sectors such as utility companies. You could argue banks as well on certain older school type consumer staples where they don't really need to do much other than what they've already got. They've already built their foundations, and they can lag. I know, I get it in bull markets, but not everyone wants that, because the other side of the argument is quite simple. growth is risky. There's no income there. Assets that have no income could become a problem in certain markets. You may well be forced to sell assets to realize a gain. I get it, that's obvious, but some people don't get it. I have the argument all the time, well, if I make £10,000 on a growth asset, but I make less on the appreciation of my stock, but I also get more income, who wins? What would you rather have in your pocket? Realized profit and unrealized profit is very, very different beasts. And you've also got higher volatility. Not everyone wants volatility. Not everyone likes to do it. Not everyone wants to have that thrill, unfortunately. But the mistake, I don't think, is choosing one. It's been dismissive of both. Because everyone thinks you have to choose them all. If you're a new investor, you have shiny object syndrome where you are literally buying every single stock, doing every single tactic, trying to become the best. That doesn't also work neither, by the way. But let's have a little look at my calculator. And I know, numbers, whatever. But even if we're going to use this to kind of understand elements and having a bit of a blend, and yes, you could argue if you're starting with £5,000, let's just say if you are solely focused on dividends, let's drop the growth rate a little bit, talk about it for say 30 years, and let's just say we've got an average of 3% yield, right? And let's just say a 4% annual growth of those dividends. Now, I do have cash savings here. We'll put that at roughly 2% in terms of so you can compare it. Let's adjust it for inflation. Now, yes, you can get some total returns, decent amount of investment growth, but the income is what really becomes the mantra here, the thing. Because over the course of time, you're going to get a snowball effect. This is what is the big thing that people think is totally mental. When we talk about growth of a dividend stock, we're talking about the growth of those payouts, not the growth of the appreciating asset, if that makes sense. So over the course of time, it will grow and you will earn more as things will compound, called the compound effect. You've probably heard of it. But this is the thing. It's slow. People quit quite early because this is boring. But you do have a situation where you will, if you are not talking about investment or reinvesting of those little dividend scraps that you're getting, cool. Not every company pays high dividends. People will pay out their dividends and have it as cash. You should be reinvesting that. Even if you are focusing on growth, you will make more money because you are going to get a little bit extra every single time. Not everyone thinks like that though, unfortunately. So don't ignore it, because when you do ignore it, as you can see here, you're going to get a lot less, regardless of what your portfolio looks like. And yes, you can talk about, well, let's just press the zero button, as you can, or we already know it, but the yield on cost is quite small because it's totally changed. You need to reinvest them. But let's talk about the other side of it, because when we edit this again and go, let's go for 7% growth, let's put the yield down to 1%, the growth down to say, I don't know, 2% maybe, or you could probably argue still 3%, because most companies do grow them or plan to. The story is okay. It's all right. The growth is obviously higher. That's fine. I get it. But the numbers are still lower. And this is why you need to look at both. Because as much as it is annoying, yes, you're going to make some more money. Cool. But if there's a period where you've got to kind of look at both, yes, I would argue try and be as balanced as possible. But even still, you are going to make more money if you're not going to pay out, but always reinvest. But what I'm saying is, if you're going from Microsoft, Apple, companies like that with very, very small dividend yield or very, very slow, you're going to find that in certain periods you're going to have volatility and you're going to, the growth's going to be good, but you got to realize those gains. But later on in life, this is going to matter. So yeah, as I say, don't ignore them, do both and have fun with it. Because we're going to talk about why it's powerful. And yes, you can look at the past, but I alluded to something just before. Tech stocks now are starting to grow and have a dividend. Remember that, because the reality is here, you may be looking at certain things like this where Warren Buffett, for example, Coca-Cola, look at how much he made over the course of time. This is quite a popular kind of theory. But what about if we are looking at, say, 10 years down the line, those 0.7% yield on dividends of Apple then becomes, say, 2 or 3% over the course of time. You're going to get more yield on cost. Your income's going to work for you. This is why holding for longer term is a good thing. And we've talked about it before. Technology, lower yields. And as you can see here, the historic trends has totally changed. The reason why dividend stocks don't do as well as, say, technology is because of that statement alone. They pay lower dividends. It's a more tech dominant world right now. And you can see here, the S&P yield has historically ranged between 3 and 5%. But ever since, well, pretty much 1992, I was born in 1991, so it's a long, long time, in 35 years, it's always been below 3%. That might actually start to change. It might actually start to rise again, because you could be arguing that maybe growth stocks are going to reinvest more capital to do research, but there'll be a point where it'll stop. And they may well pay out more of those profits that they've made and generated over the course of time, AI and all that bollocks, into their shareholders. So yeah, it might well swing around again. Different markets, different cycles, which we will come on to in a minute. But every single decade you can look, over the last 3 or 4, reinvestments of, say, profit into more research, whatever, into making their company stronger has worked out. But it may not forever. But as I've just alluded to it, market cycles. Because you got the dot-com bubble. Yes, you got the coronavirus. When technology crashes, dividend stocks will hold up better. And yes, you could argue certain things, and you will always find there's all kinds of information, but dividend stocks will, at most points, take a bit of a cut or a dint for a short term. But stability wise in the price is often much better than, say, a tech stock, realistically. Because regardless of how you look at this, and you can keep it as simple as possible, you've got 2 phases of investments. You've got accumulation phase, which is growth matters more. You'll ride the volatility over the course of time, and you'll maximize capital. And we will talk about what you can do in a minute when you get to a point where you're stopping. But when you're in the future, you need to talk about income and protection. So obviously income, cash flow, dividends will matter more. You want to reduce the risk of that volatility so you don't shit yourself when you go for your 4 a.m. piss. And you want to generate a bit more income, because pensions are crap, especially the state pension. Because going back to what I just said before about obviously income protection, this is the thing. Retirement and protection. We're all getting old. We don't want to have a situation where you cannot draw off an ISA or your SIP, for example, or your workplace pension. Because if markets do crash and you're at the wrong phase of your life and you are forced to sell early at the wrong time, you've got a big, big, big problem. So having those dividends and having that little bit of income and that diversification will massively, massively help you and protect you, which is why you should have an emergency fund, which is why you should also have growth and income. Nothing wrong with building both, even if you're splitting your portfolio, and we will talk about that now. Because I already let the cat out of the bag. I personally do both. You've seen my stocks and shares ISA. This is it, dividends. You know, there's an image behind background, Bitcoin. I bought Bitcoin very, very early on and I made a hell of a lot of money with that. That's amazing. And I can continue to add to that as it gets low and take profit as it gets high with market cycles and volatility. I am used to that. But yes, I will probably add more growth to my stocks and shares ISA as I develop the fund. But remember, growth, regardless of how you look at it, will build wealth. And I've said it before, there is funds out there that genuinely do well when it comes to growth, and I'll highlight them in a second. Because ultimately, yes, as I say, growth's great, dividends will create the income, but having them in an ISA, for example, like this, guess what? It's tax-free, especially in the UK. That's quite important, and it's flexible as well. You're not locked like a SIP. Now, just a random example, we're talking about growth. This is the S&P Global Dividend Aristocrat, which is like the solid dividend asset, right? Now, yes, it's quite an expensive fund. I get it. But I'm just giving you a little bit of an example here, because reality is it still offers some element of growth with a 4% dividend yield. Yes, it's random, I know. But even this does what? Look at what happens here. Most stocks in this time period did absolutely cack, realistically. So even when we look at the overalls here, it's actually done all right. So even if I just change this and showcase this in more detail, over the course of time, it's actually held up pretty well and delivered growth, even in the world's stickiest of conditions. And if you go all in on dividends, I think you're going to limit your growth in some ways. But if you ignore dividends, I think you're going to risk any sort of income. I think you need to start looking at it a little bit more. And I do think the smart move is having both. Even if you're splitting it up, even if you're doing 20% income, 80% growth, and then gradually move and change those scales a little bit. Not financial advice. I know everyone's different, but it's just more about thinking of yourself. What suits you? But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, jump onto my website, link below. There is calculators, there's free calculators, there's all kinds of good bits in there. There's also budget planners as well, which you can jump in via an email, which will help you as well if you are looking to get on board with your own finances and what you can invest in, why you can invest, how much you can invest, and what sort of emergency fund that you need. And if you've not done so, watch this if you want to start binging over the weekend. There's some good solid stuff there too.